In this class, we will look at structural pseudo-classes. Structural pseudo-classes allow us to apply styles to elements based on their structure in the document. We are familiar with CSS2 pseudo-classes. Usually, we see them with navigation and with links, where we can change different aspects. And we also have the focus value for the input tag of the form element. Structural pseudo-classes allow us to eliminate the need to write a lot of classes. So we will see many different types of pseudo-classes, and we will look at all of them today. The first child as a selector. This is a pseudo-class, and it precedes with a colon. And it matches any element that is the first child of its parent. So we could use that as a selector in order to apply a style. So in the example below, we have a div tag with two paragraphs. If we used the p colon first child as a selector, it would match the first p and allow us to apply a style. Here again, you can use this pseudo-class within a descendant situation, and this is highly advisable. So here we have the div with id equals xyz with two paragraphs. So rather than just using p colon first child, which would apply to any p that is a first child, if we have a specific area that we like to target, we can also use the structural pseudo-class as part of the descendant selector. We also have the nth child as a selector, and this is very nice and very powerful. There are a lot of different variations on the nth child, and we will take a look at each one of them. If we pass a number, nth child n, we can access that specific child. And if you look at the syntax is actually reading the p that is the nth child too, meaning the p that is the second child. So inside this div, we have two p's, and the second p is essentially the second child. So that would apply to any element where p would be the second child in that element. So here again, if you want to narrow it into a specific area, it would be advisable to use an ID as the starting point for a descendant selector. We also have a very nice variable that we can use, even and also odd. So here we have the nth child selector, and if you take a look at our div, even though my slide says p nth child, I have headings here. If we were to want to access the even, and here again we're counting at 1, 2, 3, 4, that would get the second and fourth, we can access every other one. So the nth child even allows us to apply styles to the even matches, and the nth child odd would be just the opposite. We also have a variation 3n. N represents a cycle. We have odd and we have even, but that's about all. Supposing we wanted every third or every fourth, this is where we would use 3n, and it would match every third, or 4n would match every fourth. We also have another variation which gives us a starting point. So 3n plus 1 would allow us to start at the first one rather than normally at the third one. We also have the nth-of-type selectors, which are not in the book, so I'm covering them here. The nth-of-type are very similar to the nth child. They follow a similar syntax, similar functionality. So let's take a look at our first of type. And there's also a last-of-type. So if we look in our HTML, inside the body, we have an H1, we have a P, we have a div, we have a P. Now notice in our div that P is the first child. All right. Notice in the body that the P in the body is not a first child. However, it is the first of type, meaning in the body, that is the first type of a P, because that is what our CSS is saying, P colon first of type. All right, so first of type has to do with siblings. Now inside the div, we have P first of type. Although that is a first child, it is also the first of type in that situation. So here again, I would like to make the distinction of first of type versus first child. The first child will always be the first of type. However, the first of type may return more matches. We also have the nth of type, odd and even. Here again, they are technically children of the body tag. But this style would apply to any situation where we have multiple P, either children, and children would be siblings also. A very useful example of the nth of type using odd or even as a parameter here are on HTML tables. Often we have this zebra striping or banding, and we can use the nth of type to do this rather than just writing classes. The nth of type n, here again, it will allow us to match a certain number starting with 1. We also have this cycle 3n, where we can match every third one of a specific type as opposed to a child. And we also have the starting position, where we can decide where we want to start our cycle. The not selector, and here again, these are preceded by colons. You may hear this as the negation selector. Allows us to apply a style to a selector, but excluding certain things. So here, if we look at our div, we have 5 paragraphs. And here we have our selector, P colon not first of type. So it would match everything except the first. We also have CSS3 Pseudo-Elements. The first letter, first line, the before property, which generates content, and the after property, which is also used to generate content. And they've kind of been around for a while. However, you may see in some code and also in the documentation that we are now adding the double colon. So in CSS3, we add the double colon to the pseudo-elements, not to the structural pseudo-classes. One of the useful situations for using the after property, and notice I have it written in the traditional with a colon, is for clearing floats. And this is commonly called the clear fix, and you can Google that term and find more information on it. So what we're doing here, we have a section, ID equals XYZ, and supposing we have 3 divs and they're all floating. And this would work very well with navigation, ULs and LIs. And we want to clear that float. Rather than clearing it by putting a break element or by clearing it in an element underneath it, we can actually put an invisible element after ID equals XYZ. So the after pseudo structure, the pseudo element, allows us to generate content, and you need to use the content property. So I'm saying the content is 1. It's just a character. I'm hiding it. I'm displaying it as a block level element. I'm also setting the height to 0, and then I'm using the clear. So it's kind of like there. it will clear, but we don't see it.